Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at the pretty brand new book from Diana Gruver called Companions in the Darkness, 7 Saints Who Struggled with Depression and Doubts. So this, as I mentioned, this just came out. I believe it actually came out today as I'm recording this, which is November 24th, 2020, from IVP. And so the main idea here of Companions in the Darkness is essentially, it's a compilation of biographical sketches of 7 Christian, I almost said well-known Christians, but they're actually not all super well-known Christian figures from history, all of whom one can surmise, it's not, the writer Diana Gruver, she's very careful to note that one cannot officially diagnose any of these figures from history, because, for obvious reasons, we're gathering data from their primary writings that they left behind. But from those writings, one can, if they wouldn't have been clinically diagnosed with depression, they certainly struggled with depression-like symptoms through the course of their lives. And so what Diana has done in the course of this book is collect brief sketches of these individuals and point to what their depression and doubts and struggles looked like, as a way to encourage readers who maybe struggle with depression themselves, particularly people who are Christians, people of faith, to know that, as the title says, they have companions in the journey, people who have gone before them, people who are also strong Christians over the course of their lives who did some amazing things, who grappled with depression. So there are well-known names, people like Martin Luther or Charles Spurgeon or Mother Teresa or Martin Luther King, for example. But there's a couple others that were not very well-known names to me, like David Brainerd, for example, who I'll mention more about in a moment. But that's essentially what it is. It's a very pretty short little book that collects these sketches of these individuals and themes it through this theme of depression and struggle and anxiety and doubt. And I should also say at this point, I actually am a friend of Diana's. We actually, funny enough, grew up literally in the same tiny town in rural Pennsylvania. So she reached out to me and offered to send me an advance copy of this. So that's why part of the reason I'm putting this review out there. So we do know each other, but I'm happy to be very honest in my takeaway from this book. That being said, so Diana's research is, because this is not a deep historical dive, so there's not an extensive like footnotes and footnotes and footnotes on these characters. It's really kind of slices of their life. But that being said, she does pull largely from primary writings, from the characters, from things like journals or letters or collected writings that were left behind. A little bit of secondary with some biographies and such, but it's a lot of primary quotes in every single chapter, so you get a good sense in their own words, which I think is crucial for what she's trying to do, in their own words of what their struggles felt like. And so for someone who, I'm not someone who's ever been diagnosed with depression myself, but I've known plenty of people who have, and I think that for someone who has walked with depression, reading those primary words, it could be potentially pretty powerful. So that's the drive. She's not trying to make a major historical case here, but she is drawing on historical sources for her portraits of these people. And then the readability of it. This is well, I don't know if it's the strongest part. I don't know if I'd phrase it that way, but it's extremely readable. It goes down, considering maybe the darkness of the topic, it actually goes down very smooth. It's very actually pleasant, enjoyable to read. I breezed through it. The chapters are short, and she introduces each chapter with a very evocative picture of a scene in each character's life. So there's the intro to each chapter is very imaginative, but it just really pulls you in before she gives a little bit more of the teasing out of what their depression may have looked like. And also every chapter has kind of a pastoral personal connection point to it. So that also makes it readable. And then also there's a lot of very vulnerable memoir elements through it. So Diana is very open in the intro that she wrote this kind of born out of her own struggle with depression and being in Christian community, and maybe not finding depression to be something that was talked about very, very well. And so that's coming out of her personal experience, and she threads her own she's pretty raw at points, vulnerable personal experience through the chapters. And so all those things just make it a very, very readable book. So that's probably one of the stronger elements of it, to be honest. And then finally, some things that I learned from this. As I mentioned, I am someone who has had depressive kind of phases of my life, difficult phases for sure, and very intense phases of doubt, I would say, in particular, though I don't know that I would have ever been diagnosed with depression. But that being said, that's just kind of some personal background. So if you're like me, you could still really, really connect with this book, I think, because I learned and developed a deeper appreciation for the many different facets of depression that can be experienced, because all 7 of the individuals she references have very different experiences and struggles, and it looks very different in each of their lives. And so I put it down with a bit of a thicker, kind of more robust appreciation for how depression or depressive kind of experiences can manifest in very different ways in different personalities and different life experiences. So that I thought was a very valuable piece of it. Also a deeper appreciation of the ways in which we as Christians have not talked very well about depression. So those are some things that I gained a deeper appreciation for. Also, really specifically, I referenced David Brainerd, but she has a whole chapter on him in here, and he was someone I didn't know anything about. This guy, I knew nothing about him, his impact on, particularly who's actually a missionary to Native Americans in kind of the Jonathan Edwards era, colonial kind of era. And I didn't know anything about this guy, and it ended up being one of my favorite chapters of the book. So I really, really appreciated how she dug for a few lesser-known names of individuals. There's a couple others that are similar. She went for some well-known names, but also some lesser-known ones, and I learned just a lot about these individuals, and really, really appreciated that. And the last thing I'll say, which I think is probably the major takeaway or the major goal that Diana had in writing this, is I really did put the book down with the tangible sense of this is a more common thing than I think about and that we think about regularly. Depression, struggle, doubt, darkness. More people walk with this and walk through this than probably is generally considered on a day-to-day basis, particularly in the church. And that's evidenced by the 7 figures in this book who span centuries of time. And so I walked away with this thinking that if I know someone who struggles, or I end up struggling, or someone in my church, I'm a pastor, so if someone in my church goes through this, you have a deeper appreciation for this is really a transhistorical, transcends personality, transcends cultural moments. Depression is something that really a lot of people travel with on the journey of life and journey of faith. And so I think the title could not be a better title, Companions in the Darkness. Like, there really are people that have walked before us through this, and we can, in a sense, walk with them as we read some of what how they reached for God in the midst of feeling God's absence and the struggle of depression in that sense. And so, last thing that I'll point to is that at the end, Diana includes a further reading, a further reference material for each of the characters, as well as really quick biographical paragraph sketches of each of their lives, and then points to here's some primary and secondary books to look into. If one particular chapter grabbed you, and like a David Brainerd, for example, and you want to research more, there's ways to do that. So I really appreciated this book. I think it serves a very specific need and a very felt need, and I'm really glad that Diana wrote it. So if this helped you, and if you're interested in this, or if you know someone who might struggle with depression, or that's something that you yourself is part of your life, and you're a person of faith, I would strongly, strongly recommend grabbing Diana's new book, Companions in the Darkness. So I hope this is helpful to you. Thanks for checking this out, and I'll see you for my next review.